Title: Boeing 737 MAX, How Safety Took a Backseat to Profits. Description: The Boeing 737 MAX scandal exposed how corporate greed and a broken safety culture led to two crashes that killed 346 people. A deep dive into aviation's darkest chapter. Tags: Boeing 737 MAX, Aviation Disaster, Corporate Scandal, Safety Culture, Business Failure, Case Study. Script: Two crashes, 346 lives lost, and a cover-up that shook the entire aviation industry to its core. This is the story of how the world's most trusted airplane manufacturer put profits over people, and paid the ultimate price. In October 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 plunged into the Java Sea just 13 minutes after takeoff, killing all 189 people on board. 4 months later, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed 6 minutes after departure, claiming another 157 lives. Both were brand new Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. Both crashed under eerily similar circumstances. But here's what makes this story truly disturbing. Boeing knew there was a problem, and they chose to hide it. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to 2011. Airbus had just launched the A320neo, a fuel-efficient aircraft that was stealing market share from Boeing. Instead of designing a new plane from scratch, which would take years and cost billions, Boeing made a fateful decision. They would simply upgrade their existing 737 design and slap on bigger, more fuel-efficient engines. There was just one problem. The new engines were too large for the 737's low-slung design. Engineers had to mount them further forward and higher on the wings, which changed how the plane handled during flight. At certain angles, the nose would pitch up unexpectedly, risking a stall. Boeing's solution? A software system called MCAS, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. This automated system would push the nose down if sensors detected the plane was climbing too steeply. In theory, it would make the MAX fly just like the older 737s, meaning pilots wouldn't need expensive retraining. But Boeing made critical mistakes that would prove deadly. First, they relied on a single sensor to trigger MCAS. If that sensor failed or gave faulty readings, the system would malfunction. Second, they didn't tell pilots about MCAS. It wasn't in the flight manuals. It wasn't covered in training. Pilots had no idea the system even existed. When Lion Air 610 took off that October morning, a faulty sensor told the MCAS system the plane was stalling when it wasn't. The system kicked in, pushing the nose down. The pilots fought back, pulling up. But MCAS activated again and again, 21 times in total, each time forcing the nose down harder. The pilots never stood a chance against a system they didn't know was there. After the Lion Air crash, Boeing had a choice. Ground the fleet and fix the problem, or keep the planes flying and protect their profits. They chose profits. Boeing issued a bulletin to airlines but downplayed the severity. They blamed the pilots. They assured everyone the planes were safe. 5 months later, Ethiopian Airlines 302 crashed in an almost identical scenario. Same sensor failure. Same MCAS malfunction. Same result. The 737 MAX was finally grounded worldwide, but not before 346 people had died. The investigation revealed a corporate culture that had rotted from the inside. Internal emails showed Boeing employees mocking regulators and bragging about fooling the FAA. One employee wrote that the 737 MAX was designed by clowns who in turn are supervised by monkeys. Another admitted he wouldn't put his family on a MAX. How did it get this bad? The answer goes back to 1997, when Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas. On paper, Boeing acquired McDonnell Douglas. In reality, McDonnell Douglas executives took over Boeing's leadership. Harry Stonecipher, a former McDonnell Douglas CEO, famously declared that Boeing should be run like a business rather than a great engineering firm. The company shifted its focus from engineering excellence to shareholder returns. Between 2013 and 2019, Boeing spent over $43 billion on stock buybacks. That's money that could have funded new aircraft development, improved safety systems, or properly tested the MCAS software. The financial consequences have been staggering. Boeing has lost over $20 billion from the MAX crisis. Their stock price cratered. Orders were cancelled. And their reputation, built over a century of aviation innovation, was shattered. But it didn't end with the grounding. In January 2024, a door plug blew out of an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 mid-flight, leaving a gaping hole in the fuselage. Passengers watched as seats were sucked toward the opening. Miraculously, no one died, but it proved Boeing still hadn't fixed its safety culture. The investigation found that 4 bolts needed to secure the door plug were simply never installed at the Boeing factory. Workers had removed the plug to fix some rivets, then put it back without the bolts. There was no quality control system to catch the error. The National Transportation Safety Board delivered a damning verdict. They said Boeing failed to provide adequate training, guidance, and oversight. They criticized a safety culture that existed only on paper. Board Chair Jennifer Homendy stated that the incident was entirely avoidable. Boeing agreed to plead guilty to criminal fraud charges in July 2024, facing fines of nearly $500 million. But a judge rejected the initial plea deal, saying it marginalized victims' families. The legal battle continues. What can we learn from the Boeing disaster? First, never let financial pressure compromise safety. Boeing's obsession with competing with Airbus and pleasing shareholders led them to rush a flawed product to market. Second, corporate culture matters. When leadership prioritizes profits over principles, it creates an environment where cutting corners becomes acceptable. Third, listen to your engineers. Boeing employees raised concerns about MCAS, but management dismissed them. Fourth, transparency saves lives. If Boeing had told pilots about MCAS and properly trained them, those crashes might never have happened. The 737 MAX scandal isn't just an aviation story. It's a warning to every company that thinks they can sacrifice safety for short-term gains. 346 people paid for Boeing's hubris with their lives. Their families will never recover. And the aviation industry will spend decades rebuilding the trust that Boeing destroyed. If you found this story important, hit that like button and subscribe to Business Case Study HQ for more deep dives into corporate scandals, billion-dollar failures, and the business decisions that changed industries forever. Sources: https://www.washingtonpost.com/business/interactive/2025/boeing-737-max-whistleblower-strike-2024. https://www.seattleetimes.com/business/boeing-aerospace/disaster-dog-boeing-and-2025. https://www.henrykodolphin.com/2024/08/case-study-1-0-billion-boeing-737-max.html. https://www.cpajournal.com/2025/06/02/of-story-of-Boeing's-failed-corporate-culture. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/boeing_737_max_groundings